Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining. You're here at ClearTech Loop. We're on the move and in the know. I'm Joe Peterson. I'm the Vice President of Cloud Security for Clarified 360 and the Chief Analyst at ClearTech Research. And I'm here with Mustapha Kebbeh, VP and Chief Security Officer for UKG. Hi, Mustapha.
Hey Joe, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for taking time to visit. In case anyone is new to the podcast, we're a hot take approach to podcasting, and we're focused on cybersecurity, cloud security, and AI security. And in each weekly episode, we ask our guests 3 focused questions to quickly educate our listeners about the security landscape, both from a risk and opportunity standpoint. And our soundbite approach is meant to act as an of-the-moment look at business and technical conversations that are happening right now in the C-suite, in particular in the CISO space. So, as I mentioned, Mustapha is the Vice President and Chief Security Officer of UKG, and he also serves as co-chair of the CISO Executive Governing Body of Evanta, a Gartner company. Mustapha has been in the industry for years, and he's had senior roles at companies like, obviously, UKG, Brinks, and CompuCom. Mustapha, how do you stay busy during the day? Please tell us.
Hi Joe, thank you. And by the way, it's a pleasure to be here. I think there's enough work to stay busy, right? So a lot of things going on. The industry, it's moving, so you have to adapt. You have to learn new things, and you also have to protect the business. So with all of that, plus life and kids and all of that stuff, you get really busy.
Oh yeah, the kids will keep you busy for sure. Not that your day job doesn't keep you busy enough. So let's just dig right into the 3 questions. From a CISO's perspective, how should you be thinking about cyber risk in terms of dollars and business impact?
Absolutely. And I think when you think about cyber risk into dollars and impact, every business would have a different way of really translating that. But the most important piece in my mind is what is the value of the business staying up, running, and then who are your customers in terms of your business value from your customer view, availability of your systems, as well as what you have, what are you protecting. The reason that's really important is everything that you do from a security perspective becomes a risk management program.
Mm-hmm.
By investing in keeping up, am I investing in the right risk? Every cyber program is going to have risk. Which one are you going to tackle first? How does that really play into the financial impact of your customers? Am I investing enough in an area where I think has a higher risk? When you think about that, it translates into, protecting the business to make sure that you're up for the business to run, or minimizing any impact so that you don't have to actually invest or put money in terms of recovery or in terms of other related security issues. When you bring those 2 pieces together, you always have the capability to drive the right conversations with your leadership on. If I make sure that there's no security issues, or I minimize the impact of security issues, I call it a dollar losses. If you a dollar loss is a dollar on. Right? If you're not losing any dollar, you're actually gaining a dollar because you're staying where you are. So what you have to do at that point is making sure that you are driving the right innovations, but also you're maintaining the right risk posture of your organization.
And you make such a good point, because you have a very deep bench at UKG, but not every CISO is in the same position, meaning they might not have a risk officer. So what people sometimes forget is that the chief security officer is also the chief risk officer. And that person is looking out for overall corporate risk, things that are going to take down the business. Like, why would you have your mission critical gear in a place that gets flooded, for example? You wouldn't. And so that'd be a conversation that you'd have with one of your peers about moving the infrastructure elsewhere. So that's such a good point. And I think you kind of answered the second question layered in the first one. So good job on that. And what would be a podcast today if it didn't mention AI? So we got to talk about that. How should the CISO be thinking about AI adoption from two perspectives, in terms of its ability to secure emerging threats, because we're starting to see so many of the tools with the AI capabilities built in, and then also from an organizational governance perspective?
So when I think about the AI tech, I think I love it. I think it's a great technology that is transforming everything that we do, transforming the organization. We see companies like NVIDIA like breaking, everything that we know. The reason is this is going to transform our space, whether we like it or not. So what we need to be able to do is really innovate within it, right? Look at the areas that is going to help you secure your infrastructure. For example, here at UKG, we really have been in the forefront of trying to use AI to really help us in the speed of detection, speed of response. And it's something that we've been trying to build within our SOC for a period of time right now. And the idea is drive the innovation, find the time to really use some of that, really drive some of that innovation. So you're not on the tail end of the technology. So that's really the key factor. If you don't use AI, and we hear this from industry, someone who's going to use AI will replace you, and that mentality is out. So you have to be able to use it, but also if you don't use AI, you won't be able to learn how to actually protect it against all the types of attacks. So by implementing it, trials and error, allow you to understand how it really works and the speed it brings. Now, with that comes the challenge of privacy, data security, as well as everything that it brings. Like every other technology brings some sort of a risk to your organization, so AI, the cloud infrastructure. But there's a risk versus reward conversation. And in my mind, the governance has to come back to how are you using this? What information is it touching? What is the security around it? What's the governance that you put into in your organization? So here we have a governance and ethics committee that drives how we leverage AI, how it's used, what's the security of the product, what can go to production, what can we have in our playground, how internally we can use it. So combining those things together allows you to really start to think about the controls you put in place, the privacy and the regulations that you are going to adhere to really drive innovation. People talk about speed, right? That's very, very important. Security tends to be one of the organizations that tends to be in the middle of innovation and speed to deliver AI tech. But bringing those together, coming closer together, making sure that we understand what's happening forefront, working with either if you're a software company or not, or product teams, and making sure you're part of that, really drive that. And when I think about AI, it's, to me, from a security perspective, it's nothing more than thinking about supply chain security. It's another code running. Somehow you have to protect it the same way. MCP, all the stuff comes into play where you put gateway security or API security becomes now, okay, what am I doing for my MCP servers? Or you gotta have to have some sort of a gateway to look at that, look at POM injections and things like that. But when you go back to the data that AI is touching, you have more complexity. It's faster, there's more speed. So data security becomes a big part of what you do for AI security, as well as access to the data. So we are focusing heavily on those two aspects to drive the tactical control, but from a privacy and governance standpoint, it's a matter of bringing the right teams together. Legal, the CIO, your group, the product team, and engineering needs to be part of that conversation.
And that's a really important point that you bring up, that everybody should be at the table, lending their voice and what's important to them. But I'm so glad that you brought up MCP, because really interested in, that MCP acting as a proxy and securing MCP, right? And so, you see now we're OAuth 2.1, right? And it's so much better than plain old API security. It's so much more secure. Are you seeing that the tokenization is going to be a great aspect if folks are following with the OAuth protocol, and then also sort of that mutual handshake, that security on both sides of the equation. What are your thoughts there?
I think these technologies allow a lot of companies to move fast and speed and share information in a very fast way. But at the end of the day, the authentication is just one, and I think the next question is what are they doing, right? What are the prompts? What are the questions are they asking your MCP server to do? Where is it sitting into the organization? Is it integrated in the product? Is it some higher level then? And how do you take that information and test it, validate it, right? So it becomes AI testing comes into play. Prompt injection testing comes into play. The traditional API gateway changes to now, okay, do I have an MCP gateway? Because security needs to see what's happening, what's transmitting. Data leakage become right. So if you don't have it configured right, or downstream databases or whatever you have spilling information that are not supposed to. So all of this comes into play in my mind. So when I think about all of this, I use the traditional AppSec security controls and say, how do we innovate with the current technology that with the newest technologies like MCP would do, and A2A and other protocols that are coming out.
Yeah, and thank you for kind of answering that off the cuff, because it's a relatively new technology. Not everybody's had a chance to play with it yet, right? It's not been appropriate for them, or it's somewhere on their roadmap, but they just haven't played with it because we're only talking, 6 or 7 months old here in terms of technology. So, you're ahead of the curve, probably as usual, and appreciate you sharing some thoughts on that. Everyone, thank you so much for taking the time to join today. Mustapha, thank you for your time, and we'll see you next time.
So thank you, and thank you. Love the podcast.